Hey there, Barry McKnight here, visiting with Marc Davis, the Director of Track and Field and Cross Country at Troy University. Great to have you with us, Coach.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We've got it's kind of a cross section of time right here. The indoor track and field season still has a little ways to go. There are already lots of preparations going on in track and field for the outdoor season. Catch us up right now with the performance indoor, first of all.
So far, so good. We've been doing a lot of work trying to sharpen up and get ourselves back to where we know we can be. The kids have really bought into what we're doing a lot more so now that it's been consistent. We've talked about COVID a lot with a sport like ours where it's basically momentum driven. We didn't have it, and right now we do, and it's really starting to pay off. It's really starting to show.
Let's talk a little bit about that, about the COVID really hit, obviously, nationally a couple of years ago, and you and I had talked about that, about how much it decimates what you guys are trying to do. What were the challenges post-COVID?
We would get kids that were fit, and then we'd have the remnants of COVID in little pockets of different places, and then all of a sudden we'd have to have people sitting, and then the momentum would be dropped, and we'd have to start all over again with some kids. Some kids, they would be back right away. Other kids, it took them 2, 3, 4 weeks to actually get themselves set. And it usually takes about 2 weeks to lose everything that you've worked for. So it was just a challenge making sure everybody stayed on the same page.
And now it seems like such an individual sport. Mm-hmm. The realize it's really not. But in terms of the buy-in of the work that's involved to be productive at this level, how has this group been in that regard?
Again, because of the consistency of the way our training has gone,
mm-hmm.
they've been able to see the body of work that they're putting in. They're able to see the benefits of all the consistent training. Less injuries, less sickness in general. They're able to see what they're working for. And now that we've put them in a position where they can go out and run fast, and they're actually starting to do that. This past weekend at South Carolina, we had a ton of season best, personal best, school records, and things like that. That comes with the consistency, and it took a while for us to get back to that point, but we're actually there now.
And the consistency, I'm always interested in that because it's a sport where the consistency of work involved, there's no shortcuts in that, Coach.
You can't fake this sport. There's no one that can bail you out when you're by yourself on a track, mm-hmm. Or in the circle or on the runway. There's no way that anybody else can help you, and if you don't put in the work on the front end, back end is going to be rough.
The stopwatch, mm-hmm. the measuring tape,
yeah,
those are impartial.
Absolutely.
You are
mm-hmm.
what your time says you are.
Absolutely, or your distance or your height. It's all right there. And if you follow what we're doing, from the base work that we do in the fall to the speed work that we're doing now, power work we're doing in the weight room, mm-hmm. we give you the tools to be good. It's just a matter of how much you're going to follow.
Let's talk a little bit now. The transition probably has started, a look towards the outdoor mm-hmm. schedule. Mm-hmm. Talk about that, talk about the schedule itself, where the challenges are, right. And name some names about some people when you start the outdoor track and field schedule mm-hmm. that you're going to get production from, you can count on.
Outdoor season is going to be, the indoor season is kind of set. We go to Birmingham, we go to South Carolina, we go to a meet up at Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and that's kind of where our meets have always been. Outdoors, we start doing a little bit. We do things a little bit differently. We go to our first big meet that we really go to is going to be at University of South Florida. It's going to be an ESPN, I think, at the ESPN3 meet, so we'll be televised, mm-hmm. and it's just a way to get a bunch of mid-majors together to run a really good quality meet. So that's going to be one that we're really focused on early to see where we are. That we really get a chance to set up our relays with our sprint relays, getting a chance to get our jumpers outdoors and do some things. We're looking for it, and it's the first time that the men can compete together as a team. So it's a great thing. It's a complete team, I should say. We have individuals that are competing right now indoors. Outdoors, once they all get together, it changes the dynamic of the whole team, really, because there's more bodies to feed off of the successes that we have.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. That type of a thing, because I've been in many track meets, mm-hmm. and one of the things I think that's underrated, and maybe you don't see or feel as much mm-hmm. on a television broadcast, mm-hmm. is just how much you feed off the emotion and energy of everybody else surrounding you in a long, long day of competition.
You really can't get a sense of it on TV. When you're there and you're going back and forth from event to event, and as the team gets better, the dynamic gets better. And you start seeing that gravitation to another event. Somebody does really well there, and then it goes to the next event, and then somebody does well there, and it's all because of the energy that the team brings. And that's something that we've lacked over the past couple of years, but it's actually coming back, and you can actually feel it.
Now, in terms of naming names, very strong indoor season for Alex Robinson. The track and field athlete of the week. Tell us a little bit about him, what he specializes in, and his development since he's been here.
Right. When I recruited him as a 400-meter runner. He was a very good 400-meter runner out of Alabama. He ran the 200, but the 4 was his main event. He's developed into a great 200-meter kid, and his development and his work ethic has developed tremendously since he's been here. He's one that has bought into what we're doing, and he's figuring out that the tools are there. He just has to not be timid, not be afraid to compete against the big guys. Because if you looked at the results this past weekend, he beat a lot of good kids in the country, and he's in the top 50 in the country right now. Which, if you've ever gone to a track meet, the sprints, the 60 and the 200. There's a lot of kids in each one, and he's doing a very, very good job. He surprised himself, I think, this week as to how fast he was going to run. And I know that we had a conversation before we even went to the meet in South Carolina, and he was asking me, "What are you thinking? How fast do you think we can run, or how fast do you think I can run?" And I said, "I think you can run really fast. I think you should be thinking about 21 low." He was like, "I was thinking more about 2170, 2180." I was like, "Well, if that's the case, why don't you just say 23 point? Don't talk yourself out of good performances." So I think track is that sport that we have here on campus that it's very mental, and you have to be able to compartmentalize and put things in order to get the results that you really want to have.
You and I were talking earlier, and you were mentioning some other names, Siobhan Osborne, some of the other people that you're counting on as well. He's been very consistent.
Very consistent. And I think the good thing about him is it doesn't let it go to his head, because he could be very, very good on the national level, I think. And Coach Michelle feels the same way. We brought a lot of new people into that throws group to bolster that. So you're going to hear a lot of new names, you're going to see a lot of new faces and things like that are going to do well for us.
Now, you talk about Coach Michelle, it's Michelle Clayton. You've got so many other people with so many different responsibilities in your coaching staff. Talk about them, the experience they have, and the work they do.
It's like organized chaos with track and field. We have a lot of kids. We have close to 100 kids on our roster. We have 4 full-time people, and then we've got some helpers that are there as grad assistants. So we have 2 more grad assistants and 1 person that's volunteering and helping. And without them, we couldn't do the things that we do, because we do have so many kids. Coach Cunningham came in last year. He's heading our distance side of things. Riley Schweitz is doing our jumps and multis. Michelle Clayton is doing our throws. I'm handling sprints, jumps, hurdles, multis as well. And the 2 GAs, Dave Alberti and Titus Sizemore, they're helping me both with the jumps and with the sprints and relays. So there's a lot of moving pieces. And if you ever go to a track meet, there's so many different things going on at the same time. So we're all over the place. And half the time, me as a head coach and coaching 1 event group or 2 event groups, I don't see half the stuff that's going on. I'm getting reports all day from my cell phone. So
I've always wanted to know that, because it's impossible to keep track of everything out there.
And then when we do a recap at the end of the week, it's just us coming together and try to figure out what the highlights were.
Right.
And I think that's what's really helped. We're getting highlights from across the board. It's not just one group that's producing right now. It's everybody is doing something, and it's great to be able to talk about.
If you follow TroyTrojans.com, I guess it was mid-December that the news came out that you had been elected as the Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association D1 President. That is a great responsibility for you, and it's got to be a great honor as well.
Yeah, I was surprised by it. I didn't expect to have it. I was the Sunbelt rep, obviously, on the executive committee for that, and I had no idea that I was up for the presidency to begin with. The one thing to go along with that is I'm also the chair of the NCAA Track and Field Rules Committee. So, I'm heading both of those committees, and it's difficult, but
Right.
it's a lot of work, but it's fun. I like being involved in the sport, and I think that is one of the things that, if I can tell all the coaches, always be involved. Get involved in the committees, get involved in the places that you can be involved in, so you are always in the know with what's going on.
Can you characterize, in your experience, and you've got a pretty good body of work now as a coach at this level, can you characterize the growth of the sport at the collegiate level, of the sports at the collegiate level?
If you look at track and field and cross country across the world, the NCAA has some of the best athletes in the world. And the growth of that is ridiculous, and it's noticeable. People see it, and we've got kids in the NCAA right now that are number one in the world, that are winning medals on the Olympic level, that are winning the Olympics, that are winning the World Championships. It goes without saying, and we're one of the few sports that you can run with those athletes as a collegiate. But
I was about to make that point. That doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it leaves a mark, and people realize that there's a lot of talent in track and field. A lot of very, very good athletes. Some of the best athletes in the world are here in track and field.
It is definitely exciting and definitely great to get a chance to visit
You
with
too.
you, Coach Marc Davis. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
For
Appreciate it.
Coach Marc Davis, Troy University Track and Field and Cross Country Executive Director, I'm Barry McKnight.